Hello everyone, and welcome to the Critical Damage Host Awards, the only award show that honors the best hosts specifically for a gaming talk show under the title Critical Damage. Now for the nominees. Ian Copeland and Will Snyder, sorry, wrong year. Karin Hansen and Aiden Owen, sorry, it happened again. Okay, the nominees for the best host of the 2022 Critical Damage Awards are Mike McMahon.
Yup, winner.
Sam Hinton. Ethan Tilley. And Jack Ryber, hey, that's me. We'll announce the winner at the end of the broadcast, so stick around. Now, on with the show.
Good evening, gamers. Welcome to Critical Damage Season 4, Episode 4. For our season finale today, we'll be talking about the Game Awards that just happened the other day. Now, before we go in, I want to talk about the Game Awards and give a little exposition about them. The other day, we found that it was the 9th Annual Game Awards. That is really great for a show that kind of started out of a little bit of mediocrity. But as we've gotten here, we got to talk about what the Game Awards are. It's pretty much just a bunch of critics, people in the game industry, will take a 90% vote and about a 10% fan vote on which games came out this year that they want to give recognition to in certain categories like Game of the Year, Best Art Direction, Best Music, Best Ongoing. They'll even shout out Best Esports Tournaments, Best Players. It covers all sorts of categories, even Best Content Creator. And so today we're going to talk about the Game Awards and go a little bit in depth. First, we're going to start with their history. The second segment, we're going to talk about our own take on this year's Game Awards. So to start us off, let's look at the Game Awards and their history. Let's throw it over to E.T.
Oh yeah, I mean, the Game Awards is such a weird concept when you think about it. It's weird, but also fitting in a sense because it's video games, and video games are a medium just like movies or books or anything, television. You have award shows like the Oscars, the Emmys. They happen for, all the time, but video games have been around for so long, and yet still there's only been 9 Game Awards. I think it's also a very new event. But it's very weird because video games aren't necessarily seen as something as prestigious as movies or television. So I think that's where a lot of confusion lies with that.
So do you guys think there's any merit in having a Game Awards at all?
100%. I mean, as I said, video games are a medium just like any other. They're art at the end of the day. So many people put time and energy and effort and money into making them. You may as well appreciate them. So many people are affected by video games every single year that I think it'd be a shame not to.
Yeah, I think it's really important to recognize the developers that are making these games and all sort of thing, but also the voice actors and the people who play so much a part in being those characters and getting them recognition as well. Because there are awards for best actors and all that sort of thing. We don't really see that for video games, and we do in the Game Awards, and I think that's really cool.
I like the idea of recognizing some actors, especially smaller titles. Really just, it's just nice to be able to reflect on a year, and I feel like the Game Awards does that really well. But let's look at the Game Awards and their actual choosing process. The Game Awards take a stance of 90% of faceless game developers in the industry give their votes on the game categories, and 10% comes to fan votes. Do we think that's fair?
It's so tough. It's a really tough to determine a voting process for something like this because I'm sure so many people would be like, oh, it should be 100% fan vote. But then when you have a game that's on every single console and millions of people have played it, that one's going to win. When you have a game that's only on a Nintendo Switch, that one's not going to win because it's not on all these consoles, not as widespread as other games. It's just a popularity contest at that point. I feel like you have to have at least some semblance of critics or someone up top that will actually judge a game for its just inherent value rather than just being a pure popularity contest. But again, the issue lies with how honest is that judging process? How do they actually judge these games, and how do they actually determine which one is the best?
I definitely agree. I think it'd be interesting to see both the criteria and then at the end if we could see the actual scoring of how everything ended up, because I don't think we get to see that. I think we just kind of see who wins at the end of the day. But I do also understand why so much of it is critics, because I think we can all talk about the Genshin Impact scandal that happened with the Game Awards, them giving in-game awards for if you voted for them, which leads to an issue of giving in Game Awards in the first place to try and get a vote in the Game Awards. And that's probably why so much of it is critic-based as opposed to player-based, because you can't let that happen.
Exactly. I mean, there's the one you're referring to is, of course, the Player's Choice Award. That award is just the best. It's 100% fan vote. So no actual critics or developers are taking part in voting for this. So it really just comes down to what is the best game that people played during 2022. So whether that game came out in 2022 doesn't really matter if a lot of people are playing it. That's why games like Genshin Impact and Minecraft were nominated, even though they didn't actually release in 2022. So many people were playing them that they figured they may as well update them, especially with how many major content updates they received. But going back, that's also why having a 100% fan vote can lead to a bunch of very weird circumstances, because you have the Genshin Impact stuff where the developers in the past have offered in-game rewards for when they win awards like these. So people are more incentivized to vote for them because they'll get in-game rewards. But also, you have the entire issue of like getting bots to vote for a game that you want because it's a 100% fan vote. And it really just comes down to a popularity contest at the end of the day. And it really is tough because it's not really, I feel like the Player's Choice Award isn't really meant to be a prestigious award in the first place because it's just what people want to pick. That one is fine with being the popularity contest as long as the other awards aren't the same. I think it strikes a good balance in that sense.
It's like the fan favorite.
I think that, like, besides just like players or gamers' choice, I guess, I mean, that's what I would deem it. But I feel like just like even looking at the ratio of 90% critic to 10% fan, I understand it. And I do think it is acceptable, but I think I'd like to see it a little bit more skewed. I think I would prefer maybe a 75-25 or an 80-20.
Yeah.
Because I feel like my opinion is a lot of the time just gets overshadowed by the release of like a superstar AAA title that purely wins because it was made as a AAA title and it's a superstar. And it's like, why aren't we looking at the small game that I enjoyed and loved to death and the developers put so much time and effort into? Why isn't that being looked
I
at?
am kind of curious about how much it would skew, though, if it was 75-25, though, because how much could mass introducing in-game awards or bots affect voting overall if it was 75-25 as opposed to 90-10? Like, why do they do 90-10?
Yeah, I think it's tough because, like you said, if you did 75-25, you also open that up to 15% more is just popular vote of the people. And if you said there's a big blockbuster game coming out, that's going to be the one that's in most people's heads and is probably going to get more of that vote.
Yeah,
so I feel
if
like
anything, it's going to be more likely that the popular vote makes it so that the AAAs win as opposed to the smaller games than if all of these critics are able to, because they probably get a really big influx of variety.
But then again, I think it's tough because a lot of this is in reference to Game of the Year, I feel, but I think more focus needs to be on these other categories as well. You have focuses on games or categories like Best Indie Game, Best Soundtrack, Best Art Direction. I mean, these are all very important categories and shouldn't be overshadowed. So I think having categories like Best Indie really opens the door for a lot of smaller games to actually get awards.
I love the cat game.
We'll get into Stray in our second segment. But as like our final thing, let's look at the Game Awards like over the years.
Oh, yeah.
I personally, I'm an 04 kid, freshman here at Emerson. I have never heard of Dragon's Age Inquisition.
That's crazy to me.
And it won Game of the Year. And as someone, like, let's looking at the games of past years, 2016, Overwatch won. I was hugely into Overwatch because that was just what came out during my time in gaming. But like, when we look back at them now, do we think they deserved some of the
My
categories
friends
that
were
won?
nonstop talking about Dragon Age Inquisition around
Yeah.
that time. So
That
I don't
might be
know
an
what
unpopular
holds
vote on
for
my
it,
end.
But
Yeah, you're making
that
me feel
was
old.
a popular game. Yeah. Dang.
I remember playing Dragon Age Inquisition back in like, I don't know, the mid 2000s. But yeah, I think for the most part, the games that have won Game of the Year have deserved it. Obviously, there's all kinds of controversy, and people always want their game to win, but not every game can win Game of the Year. I think the real issue lies when you have one game that's just winning every award, because that just makes it less fun for everyone. And even if a game is Game of the Year, I feel like it's important to actually give appreciation to these games that may not have actually won Game of the Year, but still have really good showcases in these other awards like Soundtrack. But definitely in the past, I think previous years have just been stacked with games to a point where Yeah, I think they definitely deserve to win. I mean, 2017, you have games like Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Persona 5, all releasing in the same year. And I mean, no matter which one actually wins Game of the Year, they're all amazing games. It's a meaningless award at the end of the day that they could just put on Game of the Year edition on their next release of that same game. But as long as you enjoy the games that you're playing, it doesn't really matter what awards they win, even if it's the smallest indie title known to man.
It's even cool just to see them being nominated in the first place.
Exactly.
Because of how big the Game Awards has gotten now. They're still getting recognition regardless of if they get the trophy or not.
I will admit that, like, even looking at last year's It Takes Two, at first, when I heard of that game, I thought, why would that game even get nominated? Because I had seen no gameplay of it. I wasn't hugely into the Xbox scene at that point, where the primary player base came from. And then I actually looked into the game a little, and I was like, wow, it's just so good. I understand why it won. But like, I wouldn't have never heard about it if it wasn't on the Game Awards, and it won. Like, I feel like it really is a great platform for getting these games out there.
Yeah, it's really cool too, because we've definitely seen this trend more in the past couple of years, but I feel like for Game of the Year, more and more indie titles are actually making it into being nominated. I mean, Hades was an indie title, and it got nominated for Game of the Year, and it actually had a pretty decent shot of winning, which is just awesome. Hades was an incredible game, and so many people were exposed to these more niche games that they may not have heard of before, and they get to play them because they saw them at the Game Awards. And I mean, it's actually pretty fitting because Hades 2 was announced at the last Game Awards, but so it all comes full circle. But I mean, you have these indie titles making it into Game of the Year and giving them that that spotlight that they need, I think, in order to really get to that level above indie game, which is really cool.
Well, all right. Well, enough with the history of the Game Awards, our analysis and takes on it. I think let's send it to Jack. Let's hear what's going on in First Frame, and hopefully we'll come back with our next section. We're really going to dive in to the Game Awards that happened just the other day.
Thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone, and welcome to First Frame News. My name is Jack Reiber, and I'll be walking you through the biggest headlines in the gaming world. World of Warcraft changes its character creator to include gender non-conforming options. In a recent update, the game's developers renamed the male and female options to Body Type 1 and Body Type 2. World of Warcraft is one of many games shifting away from the gender-constricting male and female options. Other prominent titles are The Sims 4, Hogwarts Legacy, and Halo Infinite. Blair Dirk, director of gaming at GLAD, told Axios that these new character creators contribute to the, quote, growing recognition of gender diversity in society led by younger generations. A game that requires players to choose between rigidly binary gender options simply no longer reflects the world that we live in today, end quote. Players can better see themselves in the games they play as this growing trend turns into an industry standard. Now, what happens when professional football and card games collide? Well, retirement, of course. In late November, NFL linebacker Blake Martinez sold a Pokemon trading card for $672,000. The card in question is the illustrious Illustrator Pikachu, an extremely rare card that Martinez had an almost perfect copy of. Martinez's card was half a grade away from being in the most mint condition possible, earning itself a score of 9.5 from professional appraisers. The former Las Vegas Raiders athlete retires with his bounty and plans to focus on the future with his retirement. Breaking news broke last night. The Federal Trade Commission sues Microsoft to block the company's acquisition of Activision. The FTC sues on the grounds that Microsoft's use of intellectual property would harm consumers, keeping profitable properties like Call of Duty from rival consoles. Holly Vendova, director of the Federal Trade Commission's Bureau of Competition, said in a statement that, quote, Microsoft has already shown that it can and will withhold content from its gaming rivals. Today, we seek to stop Microsoft from gaining control over a leading independent game studio and using it to harm competition in gaming markets, end quote. Microsoft intends to fight for the acquisition in court, with Microsoft President Brad Smith saying that, quote, we continue to believe that this deal will expand competition and create more opportunities for gamers and game developers. We have been committed to addressing competition concerns by offering earlier this week proposed concessions to the FTC. Smith wants peace between Microsoft and the FTC, but he is also confident that the company's case will prevail in court. And on to our final story of the day, dogs finally get to have their turn on the Xbox. Joypaw, a UK-based startup, is developing video games designed specifically for dogs. Using saliva-resistant touchscreens, Joypaw makes gaming consoles where dogs use their snouts to play memory and reflex-based minigames. If the dogs win the game, the console distributes a treat for their good work. These games are already proven healthy for dogs with aging brains. Though the technology is still in prototype testing, Joypaw plans to distribute doggy gaming consoles in the future. And that's all the time I've got. This has been First Frame News. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you back on the couch.
Welcome back, guys. And back on the couch here for Section C, we're going to talk about the Game Awards themselves this year, joined by our other host, Jack Ryber.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's going to be a pleasure to have you with us on the couch today.
Thank you so much.
Today, we're going to talk about those Game Awards that just happened. We're going to talk about the results, what we thought, our personal picks. And do we think there was some tomfoolery going on? Maybe, maybe not. Let's send it over to ET to start a discussion with Game of the Year.
Man, game of the year, huh? 2022. Elden Ring won. I think
That did happen.
It did win.
I honestly would have been shocked if anything else won.
Really?
Definitely.
I
Not a
was
game-
hoping for Stray, but I think deep down,
Yeah.
Even a game like God of War Ragnarok, which got 6 nominations, how does a game that has won sweeps the Game Awards for narrative, score, music, audio design, performance, action, adventure, and innovation for accessibility not win Game of the Year?
When did God of War come out?
It came out this year. It came out this year.
Very late this year, I think, is the key.
But how does that
because
factor into the
I think that
decision
does
making?
factor it in because
It
Elden
gives
Ring is
people
all
less
year.
time to kind of really get into the game and talk about it. And sure, like it definitely did sweep with all of those awards. Like go God of War,
Yeah.
so sick. But Elden Ring, people really had time to like sink into it and get into it. So critics had a lot of time to understand it, and developers and the main people who were voting.
And just honestly developed kind of a bias towards it. I mean, like going into the Game Awards, everyone was like, Elden Ring has its spot on the map. It's already gotten it.
Yeah.
But we should also look at some of the other games that came out. We had Elden Ring and God of War and Stray. We also had like Xenoblade Chronicles. We had Plague's Tale Requiem.
Yeah.
At least to me, that came out of left field.
Nowhere.
Like,
I was a room full of people. Not a single one of us had heard of it. I'm
I
serious.
Well, I think
Plague
Xenoblade
Tale has a
is good to
really
talk about
cool
here.
plot and character stuff.
Amazing
so it's
game,
there,
don't get
but
me wrong.
Surprising, yeah.
and deserved all of the praise that it get. I'm so happy that even if a game goes under the radar, it can still achieve all these amazing accolades and stand toe to toe with greats like Elden Ring and God of War. That is great, but at the same time, it's like who?
No, that makes
I
sense.
also want to point out that also Horizon got on there. Did miss him. Moving on, because I don't know if anyone's ever going to play Horizon.
I feel so bad for Horizon.
It happened twice.
This is,
with
this is what I mean.
2017
Horizon,
with Breath of the Wild.
Horizon was, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Horizon was nominated in 2017 for Game of the Year, but it was up against Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey,
yeah.
Persona 5.
One of the
Too many
best
big
years
grades.
And then
for Game of the Year.
2022, it gets nominated again. And now it's up against Elden Ring,
Yep.
God of War, Xenoblade Chronicles, Straight. Like,
Uphill battle
Good
from
for
the
them
start.
if they've
I
gone
feel
on
bad.
there twice, though. Like, they're trying.
That is a major thing for a
No,
game company to
it's
get on there
impressive.
twice.
it's impressive. I just feel bad they didn't win
Especially-
anything.
Especially for the developers behind Seafoods, like for that to be their second title ever,
Yeah,
and to get 2 nominations, even though like they didn't win, it was still an incredible accomplishment for them. And to even announce that like the writer behind John Wick is now writing a screenplay for a movie adaptation.
Whoa.
Oh,
And that was a
that
new
was really
topic
cool.
for this
That-
year was adaptations, and like that's very interesting. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think adaptation. I think the entire best adaptation category was made for Arcane.
Yeah.
I think there haven't
Because
been,
of Arcane,
there
that
genuinely
exists.
well, it's a new category. I believe.
Yeah, it's
for
brand
this year.
new.
Because there haven't been nearly enough adaptations in the past to warrant an entire category.
and
for
not
it.
enough good ones. to warrant
Exactly.
that kind of
Yeah,
True.
that's the thing. So I think Arcane was so good that they were just like, all right, we got to make this just so Arcane gets something.
But we do have to shout out some of those other categories.
Definitely.
Like, or it's not categories. Some of the other shows that got in there. Uncharted was a movie.
Yeah,
Sure.
so was
Oh,
Sonic.
it was one of the movies.
Sonic
of all
got in
time,
there
yeah.
too.
Sonic.
And then you got like the Cuphead show, which
Cyberpunk?
Very, yeah, Cyberpunk. But like
A lot of these were
Cyberpunk
critical
literally
successes. Is a huge
Hey.
deal.
Cuphead show is not a critical success.
Okay, but regardless,
Cyberpunk.
And I say that as a diehard Cuphead fan.
regardless of whether or not, like, not obviously not all of them were critical successes, but like regardless of whether or not like they were like received super well by fans, like the Uncharted movie, obviously like no one, like there's a lot of fan reception. lot of negative fan reception to that one. However, these are all still successful and at least critically like performed very well.
Yeah,
and that's a turning point. We've never seen that in the industry of video game adaptations.
Because video game adaptations in the past are a joke. A complete joke. No one cares about video games made as movies or TV shows or whatever. And then now you have a prestigious category in the Game Awards where you can get awarded if you make a really good adaptation. So I'm hoping the fact that Best Adaptation now exists, that inspires a lot of these other really good adaptations to be made.
I want to make a prediction. Next year, when the FNAF movie finally drops, it is winning that category.
Really?
Quote me on it now and call me a prophet in 1 year's time.
Okay, we'll see about that. We'll see about
if it drops. It needs to drop first. So that's the prerequisite.
Look, when the Minecraft movie comes out, that's when we'll
we'll see how the Super Mario movie does.
I was about to say,
Mario
we live in a world now where like people are excited for the Mario movie. Like a trailer can set the internet on fire in a good way and watch a lot of anticipation.
Yeah. And it's going to be
trailers though.
Yes.
Hades,
so many big announcements at this year.
So many announcements.
So many. Death Stranding 2, I don't think anyone saw that coming, or DS2, however Hideo wants to call it.
I've been following Nightingale for like months since they've been building their game, so to see their teaser come out, I was so excited. Oh my god.
There was so much, I think, out of left field, because you have these greats of the gaming industry. So many games that were nominated for previous awards in the game at the Game Awards. So things like Death Stranding, Celeste. The devs of Celeste are coming out with another game, which is amazing. Like, everyone loves Celeste. And you have all these blockbuster hits coming out with sequels to their games, like Hades, nominated for Game of the Year.
Supergiant is following up with Hades.
Yeah,
like,
it's awesome.
What they traditionally do is just make an entirely new world and game. Yeah. And for them to just follow up on Hades is incredible.
Really cool.
I mean, don't stop with the good things, you know? You got a good thing going, keep up with it.
I have to admit, I did buy Hades and I never finished it.
Well, now
I know that it's time to finish it so I can play the second one.
To be fair, Hades is a difficult game. It's not. It's not.
Anyway, moving on from my personal level of ability.
It's okay.
I will say the one game that really caught me out of left field, though, with its just great trailer, was Diablo 4.
Yes.
Like that was like a great game for a franchise I've never ever participated in. When I saw it, I was like, wow, I want to play Diablo.
Blizzard does have a good history
Diablo. I love Diablo so much, and it was so weird seeing this trailer because it reminded me of old Blizzard. It reminded me of just cinematics and just a time where Blizzard games were well respected
and didn't lose the only nomination it got this year. Splatoon.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see
multiplayer was such an interesting category.
Next year.
I'll admit, best multiplayer was kind of a category that was going to be interpreted in any sort of fashion, no matter what.
It's a tough one to judge.
I feel like going from Blizzard's super success in Overwatch 2016 Game of the Year to its sequel, Overwatch 2, getting a single nomination and losing to Splatoon 3, I feel like that needs to be commented on. Like, where has Blizzard been?
It's too many bugs, too much misaction, just...
There's a plethora of issues.
Yeah.
That we talked about for an
we could go for hours on that.
What I think is like a very slept-on pick for what I believe should have won, in my personal opinion, is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge.
Yeah.
And now it is not it's not a massive online video game. However, it makes a case for couch multiplayer.
I agree.
Not a lot of games come out where it thrives on being played with a buddy. And I think it makes a case for it on just being a solid game on its own, but even better with couch multiplayer.
I agree, and I think it certainly reminds me of It Takes Two, actually, because It Takes Two won Game of the Year.
Yes,
because I'm pretty sure one of the main reasons It Takes Two won Game of the Year last year was because it was a co-op experience that people haven't felt in a long time.
Through and through.
It reminded people of Portal. It reminded people of all these co-op games that we just haven't seen a lot of recently. So when you have a game like TMNT Shredder's Revenge that's just really good at co-op, like it's really satisfying to see. And I think it probably would have won if just not in the best multiplayer category, which is unfortunate because you have all these giants of multiplayer. Call of Duty.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be tough to beat that.
There's also two different types of multiplayer.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like Mario Kart multiplayer versus like Call of Duty multiplayer. Those are two very different.
I'm curious how they only have one multiplayer award.
You think they'd like break it up a little bit.
Well, it's tough because not many co-op games are releasing nowadays, you know?
I miss the days of on the couch, invite a buddy over
yeah.
to split screen Call of Duty Zombies. Like, you don't get those games.
And-
anymore.
Lego
Ninja
Star
Turtles-
Wars.
Yeah, Lego Star Wars. That was
Lego
that was
Star
a-
Wars should have won
Buddy
family friendly.
game.
I'll die on that.
It should
hill.
have. It
That-
absolutely should have.
That game, just nostalgia itself, I think should have carried it. Don't get me wrong, Kirby was an incredible game. No shade can ever be thrown at that adorable plush that I will murder to this day if anyone ever picks them in Super Smash Bros. But regardless of my own personal feelings in Super Smash Bros., it was a great game. I don't think it didn't deserve to win. I just felt like I thought Lego Star Wars had that category locked and then was a little upset when it didn't.
Were there any other upsets that you thought throughout the Game Awards?
I think what's really interesting to talk about for Game Awards, because they always talk about esports, I think talking about Valorant is really big. In the past, because the Game Awards has these esports categories, and we always talk about League of Legends. League of Legends, League of Legends, League of Legends. It
giant.
always wins.
They
Either that
had
or Dota,
Worlds,
right?
Like,
And yeah, exactly. League of Legends had the biggest League of Legends tournament this year, and then Valorant just wins every other category that's related to esports. We got their tournament win, but then you have like the actual best esport and the best like esports player. It's going to Valorant. And I think that's really interesting to talk about because Valorant just sort of came out of nowhere for the past like year or two and just decided, hey, I'm just going to be the most popular esport now.
I think it shows how many new eyes are on Valorant, though,
Yeah.
and how much of a fan base it's built since. Like, especially if it's competing with League.
Yeah.
What's Valorant going to be doing next year?
hold on, before we go any further, can we just take a quick vote? Does anyone on this couch play Valorant? Raise their hand if they do.
I used to. Not anymore.
Hey, 0 for 2. Moving on.
I mean, I feel like it kind of scratches that like CS:GO itch. Like I know they're different games, but like I do believe like just,
Tactical
like,
shooter.
Tactical shooter. And I feel like CS:GO has been out there for a while. This is new. It's fresh. It has like power ups. It's like class.
It
like,
reminds me of Overwatch and CS:GO.
It
It's
merges-
the best
it
of both
merges the
worlds.
two,
Obviously, it's much different and more nuanced than that. But I
Mhm.
mean, that's what the appeal of it is. People who like playing Overwatch but may not necessarily like the super fast-paced stuff want to play a tactical shooter with an Overwatch feel. And people who like CS:GO but don't like the same color beige over and over will want to play Valorant because you see bright colors, you see this brand new, fresh feeling tactical shooter, and that's what makes it really popular. And I'm not surprised that it won that many, but I guess it's more so a look into what may be the future of esports. So I think that's
I feel like a lot more underdogs came out of nowhere this year than compared to like other years. I mean, like my friend and me, we played some Valorant. They played a lot more than I did, but it's just like I did not expect it to do fairly as well as it did. I think there were 4 to 6 categories of esports.
Mhm.
Valorant took 5.
yeah, which is
What?
crazy.
Like, because going into it, everyone was like League. League
It's
sweeps
League.
every year. League had their worlds. League did everything. And then you have other tournaments that happened, which were huge. And then you see Valorant, and then Valorant, and then Valorant, and then you're like, did someone pay these people off?
I'm curious to see how Riot feels
By the way,
about it.
that is an accusation that I do not at all endorse.
Yeah.
Want to make that clear.
I do want to know how Riot feels about it, though, because I mean, they've still been sweeping either way. Like, look at that.
It's a
But
win for it's a win for
It's
Riot.
a win for
Riot,
them
Riot.
either way, but like, did they expect this win?
It's true.
It's interesting, right? Because League of Legends has been top for so long. It's been like just by far like one of the most popular esports, maybe alongside Dota, right? Dota is
Mhm.
probably right up there with it. And I always remember in the past couple game awards where you just see League, Dota, League, Dota, League, Dota. Like it's the same stuff every time. But then Valorant comes out and it's just it basically is an underdog pick. I mean, it's only been out for a couple years, but I don't think anyone was paying too much attention to the Valorant competitive scene other than like Valorant players too much, you know? Like CS:GO, the other tactical shooter, is basically deeply intertwined with its competitive scene. I feel like Valorant isn't that same way. It's has more of a casual player base in comparison.
I mean, like, even look at Twitch. I mean, like, viewership for League is always dominated.
That's true.
And then Valorant sweeps esports?
Yeah.
Do we have, moving on from our gawking over Valorant, absolute just left field swing.
Yeah.
Do we have any other categories that we thought were just like, what the heck?
Yeah,
I think we should at least acknowledge the indie games. just a little bit.
Yeah, they
If
deserve their
anything,
time. They
even
deserve
if
the
it's
time
just
to
Stray, right? Because Stray won Best Indie, and I just think it's cool to talk about Stray because it's a funny little cat game.
Indie game
And-
got nominated for Game of the Year.
I think a lot of people forget how big Stray was when it came out. Like Stray came out and everyone on every platform of social media was like, guys,
All
look
over
at the
Stray,
funny
Stray,
cat.
talking about the
All
funny
over
cat,
Twitter.
how it can knock over all the little
Yeah,
chess
like,
pieces.
because Stray is a game, it's not a very long game, but it's a game that has so much love and passion put into it, and you can really see that when you play it. And I think that's why it got so much attention as it did when it came out, because otherwise it'd just be like, okay, yeah, cat simulator, haha. So, but I think it's important to at least acknowledge that it got nominated for so many things, because it's like, it's cool that these indie games are really getting the attention they deserve.
I agree, 100%.
I think that right there, I think, is we'll cut our discussion. I think Game of the Year and the Game Awards. Jeez, the Game Awards was successful. I don't think there was anything that was too crazy, but I do agree a lot of it felt good.
Yeah, I think it's on an upward trajectory, honestly.
It's a good show. It's a good
Can't
show.
wait to see what happens next.
Yeah.
Number
FNAF
10.
movie. It's coming. It's coming. Anyway,
Sure,
definitely.
Mike. Sure.
we will call it there. Thank you guys for joining us for this season of Critical Damage, and hopefully we'll see you guys another time. Have a good night.
Welcome back. All right, it is time to present the award. Thank you very much, Madison.
This is me. This is me.
And the award goes to everyone.
What?
You can't tell me.
Come on,
we all did a great job.
Are you telling me? You cannot tell me right now.
Everyone.
This is
Like,
Look,
okay,
look,
anyone.
look, we are all
I
here.
just know who is going to be. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thank you.